Good morning, Loveland. I'm Mike Meldon, and this is your Loveland Weekly Podcast. Today, may we all pause to pay tribute to those who laid down their lives for our nation. We are forever grateful for their unwavering commitment and sacrifice. On this Memorial Day, we remember them with deep respect and heartfelt appreciation. This week, I will be talking again with my partner, Doug Gilbert. He and I both founded a local nonprofit called Love Our Land. A lot of people may recognize the name but are unfamiliar with what we do exactly. So today, we're going to try to make it clear. We will also have the last update of the year from the middle school. They actually sent it to us last week, but we did not have an episode, so I'm going to include it today. Today is Monday, May 29th, 2023, Memorial Day.
All right, Doug. Usually we start talking about Love Our Land and we go into a little bit of the history on how we got together and this and that. But I want to start this one out a little bit differently. I want to talk about our mission first. I want to talk about, and I want to read it to you. And then I'm going to have you kind of explain what it means, because I think it's the most important thing to get out of the way. Because I think it's the main thing. People look at us, I want to get deeper into this. People look at us as just the local environmental group. And I think we have a little bit more of a niche than that people don't understand. So our mission is we seek to reconnect people and nature, and in so doing, empower citizens with the skills and knowledge necessary to address the biodiversity crisis in their own neighborhoods and yards. So what does that mean in layman's terms for the people to understand? What are we trying to accomplish?
So really, number one, we need to connect individuals and nature. If you're not connected to something, you don't understand it, you're less likely to care or appreciate it. So number one, it's all about getting people outdoors and engaged in their environment and observing nature, and ideally getting them to do that on a daily basis.
And I think that's where, because we have so many nature walks, events like our campfires, our owl prowls, since that's one piece of our mission, I think that's what people kind of just assume that's what we are. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. I think because that's kind of like the ground level getting in, it is so important. Yes. I think more people are getting connected with nature, but it's so important to create that connection. And one of the reasons we got into this is because you do that so well. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that I think that's what people see us as, is like, hey, this group that gets us out. But can you continue? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of organizations do a really good job of doing that. That's step number one. Step number two is really getting people to look outside and see more than just green. There's more depth and complexity to nature than what we just see if we're not, paying attention. And so being able to look out, understand what plants are around you, what animals are around you, and evaluating the health of that space. Is this green and healthy and happy, or is it just green and it's really full of non-native invasive plants that create food deserts for biodiversity?
And I have to point out here too, if you would have told me that before we got this started, if I was just listening right now, that would have said, that sounds really tough. I mean, it sounds really hard. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to walk into a green space and be able to tell if it's healthy or not. And I just want to add that we're going to talk about our background for a second, but I have no background in this. You're the expert here. I kind of run the other parts of the show here, but you can learn really quickly. And part of the reasons
Yep.
I wanted to get this going is I would walk into all green spaces, like you said, and they were all created equal. I would go in and just think, this is gorgeous. I live like right on the West Loveland Nature Preserve. I'm walking down here in this oasis of nature. And I felt that way until you pointed out, well, Mike, it's missing this, this, and this. And you can, and I think this is important for people to understand, once you spot, the couple main non-native invasive species, you can see how unhealthy the environment is real quick. Even my kids can now. So yeah,
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. So, being really almost being the doctor and looking at the patient, whatever environment you're in is the patient, and you're looking at how plants are grouped and assembled, what species are there. That all provides you some evidence on how healthy a space is. And so really being able to do that, say, hey, there's an issue here. If it is West Loveland Nature Preserve, you look at it and you say, okay, it's full of bush honeysuckle and multiflora rose and calorie pears. And then being able as a citizen to say, yes, there's something wrong, and I want to do something about it. I want to improve conditions here. And that's the great thing about what we kind of offer folks is we let them get to that point where they feel empowered because they have, this new skill set and this new knowledge, regarding nature, and they feel empowered to do something, and they can do it. And it's a really rewarding experience because, you go out, you remove bush honeysuckle and you plant it with, native shrubs like arrowwood and black hop viburnum. And the next few years, once those plants mature, you come back and there are butterflies visiting those flowers, there are bees visiting those flowers, and you can start to just see the life come back to an area. And for me, that's why I do this. Like, it truly is such a rewarding experience personally, but it's also rewarding in a sense that you're providing the community a service. You're improving the health of the local environment, and each little bit matters, from, West Loveland Nature Preserve to a small, 50 square foot plot in your yard. It all really, really matters.
Right. And I think one of the things that you can tell the unhealthiness of the environment by finding the non-native invasive species, but you can also tell when you pointed out to me, well, Mike, where is the life? And I think that we grew up in a lot of these areas and just expected that there's not always that much life around us. We don't know what's supposed to be there, when in actuality, a healthy green space would have the butterflies, the bees, plenty of different species of birds, and you should be able to sit there and see them. And so when you opened my eyes to this and you said, well, look, you got all these non-native invasive species, and what they're doing is they're not allowing these other organisms this life to survive, which is what in science or whatever, what we refer to even in our mission statement is the biodiversity crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Prior to the vast deforestation and plowing of the prairies that occurred here in Ohio and in so many other places, you would have hundreds of birds living in, a small forest, nesting there, and just tons of species that are zipping by you and crawling past you and, walking past you. And it's almost like you'd be in a rainforest. What people kind of expect from a rainforest, we would have had that here, but that's been stripped away. And really, we've had such a shifting baseline for the environmental health of areas that we've never seen that. Our parents never saw that. Our grandparents never saw that. So we have no good sort of idea of what things should look like.
What to expect. Right, exactly. Right. We don't know. Right. Just to give a brief history on how we met and how we got this started, I was a member of Loveland's Tree and Environment Committee. Doug had moved into town. Doug was just what we needed. We needed somebody that knew what the heck was going on, an expert. So I got Doug on there, and he kind of taught me about this biodiversity crisis and non-native invasive species. And we did a lot of great work for the city. We started to get a strategy going. Doug is still actually on that committee currently. And we wanted to make a difference in the land that really matters, because the land east of the Mississippi is mostly private owned land, whether that be business or individuals, and it's over 80%. And so we said, to really make an impact, we got to reach citizens. So we decided to, okay, we're focusing on the city. I left the committee to really focus on Love Our Land. And what we want to do is really make people see that, hey, you can see this life. This is a change that you can make, see the difference in a short time, right? And be a part of something that we've read about from a book called Nature's Best Hope by Doug Tallamy. He said he has this idea called homegrown national park. Doug, can you expand on what he means by that, and what are we doing to try to promote that?
Yeah, so the homegrown national park is the idea that there's more land wrapped up in private land, what private landowners have, than we have in our national forests, national parks, all of that stuff combined. And together, we could take all this patchwork of private land and create our own national park. That's where the homegrown national park name really comes from. And the idea is to take and convert yards that are predominantly turf grass and turn those into patches of habitat for nature and for biodiversity. And in doing so, you begin to reverse the trajectory of biodiversity loss. And instead, we start to regenerate that biodiversity. We bring songbirds and bees and butterflies and all manner of life back to the communities in which we live, because truly there's not enough of these natural, untrammeled places left in North America, even in the world, to sustain our human, communities. We need to have functioning ecosystems right where we live, right in our communities. So when we, walk to our parks, we should be seeing as much life along the sidewalks and in our neighbors' yards as we do in the parks themselves.
Yeah, and we're starting to get people interested, and I think it's going to grow. I hope, our hope obviously is that it becomes a domino effect. But can you talk a little bit about maybe the mapping that we want to do eventually, and how we can truly create Loveland, a community like this in Loveland?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big sort of mapping nerd. I love looking at maps, old maps, new maps, any type of map, really. I find it very interesting and revealing. It's a really great way to express data. And so what I would love to see happen is I'd love to see a map of the greater Loveland community. And I'd love to see where there is a lot of biodiversity. Where are these native plants that we need so desperately? And by doing that, if we can start mapping that out, then we have a better idea of, okay, well, this is where we're lacking a lot of, native plants over here. These biodiversity islands is what I call them, because they're islands of habitat surrounded by a sea of non-native or, paved concrete, whatever. It's a sea of nothing. And, so where are the biodiversity habitat or islands now? And where do we need to get more? And so by creating that map, we can really do that. We can really highlight, and recognize where it is we need to start focusing on communicating better with landowners so that they can start implementing these practices themselves.
And it's important to note too that we're not asking people to get rid of their lawns. That's a big step. No. We know that there are HOAs out there, but like Doug said, if you can create part of your yard, even the landscaping that you have now, if you switch it over to native plants, or just take an area of your yard. Doug, we actually have a class on how to create just an area to actually create an island almost in your yard. But Doug, what are some other ways if people are listening to this and saying, okay, I want to, what can I do to help? How can we help them? What do they need to know?
So one big thing is figuring out where to purchase native plants. We're lucky here in the Cincinnati area that we have a few native plant retailers. I'll put a shout out to Keystone Flora. That's a company based in Cincinnati that's where I started. And the gentleman who owns that, his name's Steve. He is extremely knowledgeable and extremely friendly. Highly recommend going to him and talking to him about the plants that he has. So really identifying where to get your plants is critical. Highly recommend not going to any sort of large box stores for native plants, because those plants are typically treated with systemic insecticides that will actually harm your local ecosystems. So steer clear of those guys. And if you go to a retailer and you're not sure whether or not they've treated their plants, I mean, this is a very common practice. So it's an important thing to ask. Ask the people there, hey, is this treated with any type of insecticides? What do you do to protect pollinators when you're applying these insecticides and everything? Make sure that they tell you, no, these are good, these are organic, and these are great. So that that's an important element to it. Once you know where to get your plants, the big thing is I always strive to have floral resources, so pollen and nectar available to pollinators from spring to fall. So typically, late March, early April to October, you want to have staggering blooms that entire period if you can. So it takes some strategy, some strategic thinking. If you're trying to, you only have so much space to use, you got to really think about, okay, what am I going to put here? And the other thing is you want to plant these things in patches, in bundles, clusters. You don't want to just put one of each plant. That's going to be not going to be very great for your pollination of those plants. You want to make sure you have, at the minimum, three plants of each species. And so I think that kind of information, 3 plants of each species, and then having those species have staggered blooms from basically April to October, that's enough to get you started. If you can meet those criteria, you've created a biodiversity island. And this can be perennials, this can be shrubs, this can be vines, this can be trees. All of those plants flower and have the ability to support pollinators and other biodiversity.
And also, if anybody's listening and they're interested in this, and that just sounds like it's way over their head, like a lot of it was for me. We have information, we have PDFs on our website under the information section that talks about, that gives you a list of all native plants that you can buy, talks about their blooming period, talks about whether they're better shade or sun or whatever. So you can get all that information there, or there's plenty of resources online, but Doug is also available for consultations at a very reasonable price too. You just contact us through our website. So anything just to wrap up, Doug?
Yeah, I mean, just really the biggest thing here is if you want to do good for nature, you want to, be, a nature lover, this is the thing to do, truly. If you go out and you plant these plants in your yards, you are going to learn so much about the local flora and fauna. You're going to feel fulfilled. Like I said, it's an extraordinarily rewarding experience to see the plants that you've planted sustaining life around you.
Hi, my name is Hank, and I'm here with Kane, Bracken,
and Caleb.
And today we are going to be giving you our weekly update at Loveland Intermediate School.
It's hard to believe that it's the last week of school at LIS. Field day is something we look forward to all year. The 5th grade field day is on Monday and the 6th grade field day is on Tuesday.
We will participate in many different races and events and then end the day with tug of war. Which classes will win this year?
The last day of school is this Thursday. Teachers have planned lots of fun events for students. There will be yearbook signings for fellow students to sign each other's yearbooks, award presentations, and a cookout as well. Have a great summer. Go check out our Lovelandish podcast on Spotify, and thanks for listening today.
Looking ahead in Loveland. Today is Memorial Day, and the parade will begin at 9 a.m. and will start at Loveland Elementary School. Immediately following the parade, a ceremony will be held at Loveland Veterans Memorial, located at the intersection of West Loveland Avenue and Riverside Drive. June 10th, from 1 to 3 p.m., there will be a gazebo ribbon cutting. The city will hold a small ribbon cutting ceremony and a concert at Nisbet Park's new gazebo. And on June 13th, from 7 to 8 p.m., Loveland will be holding the first informational meeting for its new youth conservation team that is open to kids from grades 5th through 8th. Details are at loveourland.org's event page. Check it out. We have something truly special here in Loveland. Thank you for listening and have a great week.